Imagine a quiet village where life moves at a slow, peaceful pace. The nights are dark, with only the dim glow of lanterns flickering in the windows. And then, just before dawn, a familiar and soothing sound fills the air, the Azan. But what if that Azan never ends? What if, one night, the Muezzin disappears in the middle of calling to prayer, yet his voice continues to echo from an empty minaret? This is not just a story. This is a real mystery that has haunted an entire village for decades. What happened to the Muezzin? Who or what is calling the Azan? Stay with me till the end as we uncover the chilling story of the unfinished Azan. And if you love mysterious and spine-chilling Islamic stories, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode of Horror Creation. Now, let's begin. This story takes place in a remote village, far from the noise of the city. The villagers lived simple lives, bound together by faith. At the heart of their community stood a beautiful old mosque, its towering minaret visible from every home. The mosque's muezzin was an elderly man named Abdul Rahman. He had dedicated his entire life to calling the Azan. Every morning, even before the first light of dawn, he would climb the narrow staircase of the minaret and begin the Fajr Azan. His voice was strong, clear, and filled with devotion. But then, one fateful night, something terrifying happened. It was a cold winter night. The village was silent, except for the occasional rustling of the wind through the trees. As always, Abdul Rahman woke up before dawn, performed his ablution, and made his way to the mosque. The villagers, still in their beds, listened for the familiar sound of his voice. Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. The first few words echoed beautifully through the village, waking those who had yet to rise for prayer. But then something strange happened. The Azan stopped, not in the usual way, where the caller finishes and leaves behind a peaceful silence. No, this was an abrupt, unnatural stop, as if someone had suddenly silenced him. The villagers waited, expecting him to resume. But there was nothing. Concerned, a few men hurried to the mosque. They pushed open the heavy wooden doors, their breath visible in the cold air. The prayer hall was empty. The microphone was still connected. The minaret's door was slightly ajar. Where was Abdul Rahman? They climbed the minaret stairs, calling his name. But when they reached the top, nothing. The minaret was empty. Abdul Rahman had vanished. A deep sense of fear settled over the village. They searched the entire mosque, then spread out into the village, checking his home, the streets, even the nearby fields. But he was nowhere to be found. Morning came, and with it, an unsettling realization. Abdul Rahman was gone. The village mourned their Muezzin. The imam appointed another man to call the Azan in his place. But that night, just as Fajr approached, the village was filled with the sound of the Azan. The villagers froze. It was the same voice, the same rhythm, the same tone. It was Abdul Rahman. But how? Terrified, some villagers rushed to the mosque. They found the doors locked from the inside. No one was there. The minaret was dark, yet the voice echoed from above. No one dared to enter. The next night, the same thing happened. The Azan rang through the village in Abdul Rahman's voice. But the mosque remained empty. Days turned into weeks. People tried to investigate, but they found nothing. Some brave villagers attempted to record the Azan, but when they played the recording back, there was only silence. A dark fear spread through the village. Some believed Abdul Rahman's soul had returned to complete his unfinished Azan. Others whispered that a Jinn had taken over his duty. But one thing was certain, no one entered the mosque after dark. One night, a young man named Yusuf decided to uncover the truth. He was known for his courage and strong faith. If no one dares to see who is calling the Azan, he said, then I will. Before Fajr, Yusuf entered the mosque. He climbed the narrow staircase of the minaret, step by step, his heart pounding. As he reached the top, the Azan began right beside him, but there was no one there. The voice filled the air, loud and clear. Yusuf looked around in horror. Then suddenly, the Azan stopped. The village was plunged into eerie silence. A moment later, Yusuf came running down the stairs, his face pale as death. He refused to speak of what he saw. From that night on, the Azan from the empty minaret stopped, but Abdul Rahman was never found. Some say Abdul Rahman was taken into another realm, pulled away from our world by forces beyond human understanding. Perhaps he was chosen for something greater, his soul transported to a place where time and space work differently. never to return. Others believe he was a test for the village, a warning, a trial of faith. Maybe his disappearance was meant to remind the people of the unseen world, to strengthen their belief in the mysteries that surround them. And then there are those who whisper about the Jinn, powerful, unseen beings that exist alongside us. Some claim a Jinn took over the duty of the missing Muezzin, calling the Azan each night in his voice. But if that were true, was the Jinn honoring Abdul Rahman's devotion? Or was it something far more sinister? But the truth? No one knows. To this day, the mosque stands as it always has, its doors open during the day for those who come to pray. But once the sun sets and darkness falls, an uneasy silence takes over. No one dares to enter after nightfall. The villagers speak in hushed tones, glancing fearfully at the minaret as if expecting something or someone to return. The mystery remains unsolved, and Abdul Rahman was never seen again. And as for the Azan, it has never been heard from the empty minaret again. Or has it? Some travelers passing through the village claim they have heard a faint, ghostly Azan in the dead of night, too distant to be real, yet too clear to be imagined. Perhaps the mystery of Abdul Rahman will never truly fade. Perhaps his voice still lingers, calling to prayer from beyond the veil of the unknown. What really happened to Abdul Rahman that night? Was he taken by unseen forces, spirits or jinn that exist in a realm beyond our understanding? Many believe that jinn, especially those who reside in deserted places like old mosques, can sometimes interfere with human affairs. Could it be that a jinn took over the role of calling the Azan after Abdul Rahman mysteriously vanished? Or was this a divine test, a reminder that there are things in this world we cannot explain? Some argue there might be a logical explanation. Could it have been an echo, a strange atmospheric effect? Could someone have been imitating his voice to scare the villagers? But if so, why did no one ever step forward? And why did recordings fail to capture the sound? The biggest mystery of all remains. Where did Abdul Rahman go? If he had simply left, why did no one ever find a trace of him? His home was untouched, his belongings still in place. It was as if he had vanished into thin air, leaving behind only his voice. So what do you think? Was this a supernatural event, or is there a rational explanation that we haven't considered? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one, and if you love exploring real spine-chilling Islamic mysteries like this, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode of Horror Creation. Until next time, stay safe, keep your faith strong, and remember, some mysteries are better left unsolved.